For as long as anyone in the Stellar Union could remember, maps ended at the Veil. It appeared on every star chart as a vast violet scar stretching across the darkness, a region of violent energy storms, gravitational distortions, and electromagnetic chaos, so severe that no known ship could safely cross it. Generations of explorers had tried. None had returned. Scientists studied it. Military fleets monitored it. Children learned about it in school. The conclusion was always the same. Nothing existed beyond the Veil. And even if something did, it wasn't worth finding. Captain Kael Orion grew up hearing those stories. He never believed them. Not because he thought the stories were wrong, because he thought they were incomplete. At 32 years old, Kael commanded the survey vessel Wanderer, a medium-sized exploration ship assigned to sectors so remote that most people in the Union forgot they existed. His missions were routine. Scan asteroid belts, catalog stars, update navigation databases, submit reports. Repeat, the work paid well. The work was safe. The work was unbearably boring, which was why the signal changed everything. It appeared at 3:17 station time during an otherwise uneventful survey shift. A weak transmission, barely distinguishable from background noise. The ship's computers nearly filtered it out automatically. Fortunately, Kael had a habit of reviewing anomalies personally. Something about the signal bothered him, not because it was strange, because it was deliberate. The transmission emerged from deep inside the Veil. That alone should have been impossible. But what truly caught his attention was its structure. It wasn't random. It wasn't interference. It wasn't natural. It was a pattern, a sequence of mathematical coordinates. Someone had sent it, and someone had intended for it to be found. Kael stared at the display for nearly an hour. Then he forwarded the data to Stellar Union Command. The response arrived 6 hours later. Sensor reflection. Case closed. No further investigation required. Kael read the message twice, then laughed, because whoever had written the report clearly hadn't even examined the transmission. The coordinates were too precise, the intervals too deliberate. The signal was artificial. He knew it, and deep down, he suspected Command knew it too. 3 days later, another signal arrived, then another, then another. Each transmission lasted only seconds. Each emerged from a different location within the Veil, and each carried a new coordinate, a path, a route, a trail leading deeper into the Forbidden Region. That was when Kael stopped reporting the signals. Instead, he began studying them. Weeks turned into months. He dug through archives reaching back nearly a century. What he discovered made his blood run cold. The signals weren't new. They had been appearing for decades. Tiny fragments buried inside astronomical data. Ignored, dismissed, misclassified. Thousands of transmissions scattered across 70 years. Individually meaningless. Together forming a map. Someone inside the Veil had been trying to communicate for a very long time, and no one had listened. Or perhaps someone had listened and made certain nobody else would. That possibility bothered Kael far more, because mysteries were one thing, cover-ups were another. He spent 6 months reconstructing the route, every coordinate, every transmission, every fragment. When he finally completed the sequence, he sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. The path led directly through the center of the Veil. No ship had ever attempted that route. No captain would. No sane captain. Kael made his decision the following morning. He never asked permission. He simply altered the ship's course and headed toward the storm. The crew thought he was conducting a survey. By the time they realized otherwise, turning back was impossible. The Veil engulfed them like a living thing. Purple lightning stretched across space. Sensors failed within minutes. Communication systems collapsed shortly afterward. Navigation became nearly useless. The universe outside transformed into an endless ocean of violent energy. Crew members panicked. Several demanded an immediate retreat. Kael refused, because the coordinates continued, one beacon after another, each leading them forward, each proving they remained on the path. Hours passed, then days. The ship endured punishment beyond anything it had been designed to survive. Systems overheated. Power fluctuated. Hull integrity warnings echoed through the corridors. Several times Kael wondered whether he had doomed everyone aboard. Several times he considered turning around. Yet the coordinates continued. Steady, patient, waiting, as though someone knew exactly where they were, as though someone had expected them to come. On the fourth day, the storm vanished. One moment violent chaos surrounded them. The next, open space. Silence filled the bridge. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Every crew member simply stared. Beyond the veil existed an entire civilization. Cities floated above emerald oceans. Gigantic orbital structures surrounded planets. Artificial suns illuminated regions of space. Thousands of ships crossed carefully organized trade routes. Massive stations drifted between worlds. The civilization was not struggling. It was thriving. More importantly, it was advanced. Very advanced. Perhaps more advanced than the entire stellar union. A transmission arrived moments later. The screen illuminated. A single sentence appeared. Welcome. We've been waiting for you. No threats. No warnings. No demands. Just a greeting. Kael felt a strange chill, because whoever had sent that message sounded unsurprised, as though this meeting had been expected, as though they knew it would happen eventually. The transmission included coordinates directing them toward a station orbiting a blue-green planet. The crew debated for hours. Eventually, curiosity won. The Wanderer proceeded toward the station. As they approached, Kael noticed something extraordinary. The structures surrounding the planet weren't military installations. They were research facilities, universities, manufacturing centers, observatories. The civilization appeared focused on creation rather than conquest. That realization made the mystery even deeper. Why would such a society hide itself? When the Wanderer docked, Kael was greeted by a woman in her 60s. Her silver hair was tied neatly behind her head. Her posture was relaxed, her expression calm. "My name is Dr. Celine Eris," she said. "Welcome to Nythara." No soldiers accompanied her. No security teams. No visible weapons. Only scientists, engineers, researchers. The welcome felt genuine, almost ordinary, which somehow made it more unsettling. Kael followed Celine through vast corridors overlooking the planet below. Everywhere he looked, he saw evidence of progress. Advanced technology, thriving communities, prosperity. Nothing about the place resembled a civilization trapped behind an impenetrable barrier. Finally, he asked a question that had haunted him since entering the Veil. Why hide? Celine smiled faintly. "We didn't hide." Kael frowned. "The entire galaxy believes this region is empty." "Yes." "Then you hid." "No," she replied. "The galaxy chose not to look." That answer lingered in his thoughts. Later, inside a massive archive facility, Celine showed him why. The archive contained 6 centuries of records, historical documents, government communications, exploration logs, military reports, millions upon millions of files, evidence preserved across generations. Then Celine revealed the truth. 600 years earlier, explorers from what would eventually become the Stellar Union discovered Nythara. Official history described the encounter as peaceful. Official history was wrong. The original expedition had not arrived as explorers. It had arrived as a corporate extraction fleet. Its purpose was simple: claim resources, exploit the planet, control its population, The Nythara resisted. Conflict followed. The invaders expected an easy victory. Instead, they encountered a united world. The confrontation ended badly for the expedition, and when the truth threatened political careers and economic interests, history was rewritten. Records disappeared. Witnesses vanished. The veil was constructed. The region was declared inaccessible. Future generations inherited a lie. Kael sat in stunned silence. "You have proof." Celine gestured toward the archive. "Every piece." "Why not release it?" "We considered it." And she looked toward the stars. "The truth is powerless if nobody is willing to hear it." Over the following weeks, Kael learned more. The Nythara had spent centuries preparing, not for war, for recognition. They studied galactic law, developed advanced technology, built thriving worlds, created diplomatic strategies, preserved evidence. Everything they did served a single purpose. When the truth emerged, nobody would be able to ignore it. The patience required was astonishing. Entire generations dedicated their lives to a future they would never personally witness. Parents taught children. Teachers trained students. Scientists continued projects begun by their grandparents. For 6 centuries they built, quietly, patiently, relentlessly, not because they sought revenge, because they wanted legitimacy. Then came the fleet. News of Kael's discovery spread rapidly. The Stellar Union responded immediately. 37 warships emerged outside the veil. Official statements described the hidden civilization as a potential threat. Emergency powers were invoked. Military commanders prepared contingency plans. The galaxy braced for conflict. Kael watched events unfold with growing dread. He expected panic among the Nythara. He found none. Celine remained calm. Researchers continued their work. Children attended school. Construction projects proceeded uninterrupted. No emergency mobilization occurred. No defensive fleet assembled. It was as though the arrival of 37 warships meant nothing. Finally, Kael asked why. Celine's answer surprised him. "Because fear is useful only when you're uncertain." "And you're certain?" "Yes." "About what?" "About who we are." The following day, she transmitted the archive. Every document, every communication, every hidden report. Centuries of evidence released simultaneously across the Galactic Information Network. The effect was immediate. Historians verified the records. Journalists investigated. Governments demanded explanations. Citizens questioned everything. The official narrative began collapsing within hours. Within days, military commanders faced public pressure unlike anything in living memory. Several captains refused aggressive orders. Others withdrew entirely. Political alliances fractured. Emergency debates erupted across countless worlds. The galaxy discovered that the greatest threat was not the civilization behind the veil. The greatest threat was a lie that had concealed it. Weeks later, the crisis reached its peak. The Union Senate convened an emergency session. Millions watched. Representatives argued for 17 consecutive hours. When the final vote occurred, the result was decisive. The old classifications were abolished. The historical cover-up was officially acknowledged. Nythara received full recognition as a sovereign civilization. The announcement echoed across known space. The veil no longer served a purpose. Over the following years, transit corridors replaced military checkpoints. Trade routes crossed formerly forbidden space. Universities exchanged knowledge. Scientists collaborated. Diplomats negotiated. Explorers arrived. Tourists followed. What had once been a prison became a crossroads. And throughout it all, Celine remained remarkably unchanged. One evening, years after first contact, Kael stood beside her overlooking a city illuminated by thousands of floating lights. Ships moved peacefully through the sky. Children laughed somewhere below. The future seemed impossibly bright. Was it worth it? He asked. Celine looked toward the stars. Was what worth it? The waiting. A small smile appeared. We weren't waiting. Kael laughed. 600 years sounds like waiting. No. She shook her head. Waiting is passive. She gestured toward the city, the universities, the shipyards, the observatories, the research centers, the worlds we built. We weren't waiting for history to change. We were building the future we wanted. The answer stayed with him. Years later, when historians describe the opening of the veil, they often focus on the political consequences, the collapse of old institutions, the exposure of corruption, the transformation of interstellar relations. Those events mattered, but Kael believed they missed a real lesson. The real lesson wasn't about politics. It wasn't about governments. It wasn't even about truth. It was about patience. Because while the galaxy spent centuries believing nothing existed beyond the storm, an entire civilization had been quietly building tomorrow, generation after generation, without recognition, without validation, without applause. They built because they believed the future mattered. And eventually the future arrived. The veil disappeared. The lie ended. The stars opened. Not because someone fought harder. Not because someone conquered more territory, but because a civilization chose wisdom over anger, preparation over revenge, patience over fear. And in the end, that choice changed the galaxy forever. The old warning eventually vanished from navigation manuals. Children no longer learned to fear the veil. The storm itself became little more than a historical curiosity. Yet a new lesson emerged in its place. A lesson repeated across worlds, universities, and diplomatic academies. A lesson remembered long after the old myths were forgotten. Never mistake silence for weakness. Because somewhere beyond every horizon, beyond every assumption, beyond every story people tell themselves about what is possible, someone may already be building the future. Quietly, patiently, waiting not to be saved. Waiting not to be discovered, simply preparing for the day the rest of the universe finally catches up